Good morning, Mr. Edwards. Miss Mubbina here.
Morning, right. Now, I've had Mr. Whitland on the telephone this morning, and to put it quite bluntly, the society has double-crossed us.
Oh, what is that?
Well, what I mean is they've reneged on an agreement. I got an agreement from Mr. Whitland. We had discussions on the Thursday or the Wednesday of the week last week. No, sorry, the week before last when I was at the society. You know that because I wrote to you saying I discussed matters with him.
Oh, okay.
He agreed with me provisionally that if I obtained some evidence from Dr. Brownell that a report would be coming and some indication from Dr. Brownell of what would be in that report, and we have now got that he would agree to your suspension for a further period of 3 or 4 months and a further full review at 3 or 4 months, and that could be done without any attendance. Now, he's basically simply gone back on that agreement this morning, and I know why. It's because, of course, Dr. Brownell's report is very helpful to you. It says, as you know, because you've read it, I assume, it says, on the evidence available, I would not be of the opinion that Miss Hashmi suffers from a psychotic illness. This report from Dr. Brownell is very helpful, and of course, it's likely, therefore, that when Dr. Brownell completes her full report, that full report will also be very helpful to you. And it's perfectly clear to me that the society is trying to avoid those reports going in. And therefore they have quite literally double-crossed us on the deal that I made. Now, just bear with me a moment while I look up the rules, will you, to see what we can do.
Okay.
Because I'm very angry about this. I've also phoned the PDA, and I'm waiting for a phone call back. And if that phone call back comes while we're on the phone, I'm going to take it. Because I've asked for some support from the PDA, even though, in fact, you're not currently a member.
Okay.
Because we have complained in the past about the society double-crossing us, and I've left a message to the PDA saying that we've been completely double-crossed on this, and I'm hoping to get some PDA support for you, even though they're not paying the bill. Now, just let me have a look at the review hearing and what they can do. Just bear with me 1 second. Just want to check what they could do. Sorry, I'm just trying to bring up the relevant...
Mr. Edwards, I'm just thinking to myself, why would the society do that? I mean, okay, Mr.
Because
Whitland...
the society does not want you on the register. I will tell you quite frankly, once the society gets its teeth into people, it doesn't want them on the register. It's as simple as that.
I see.
The society is a very vicious, uncompromising authority. You're not alone in having this problem.
I know.
Once the society has worries about a registrant, the view it takes is it would rather get rid of them. It's what I call a global view. If you accept that there are nearly 40,000 pharmacists on the register, which is the case, the society's view is simply this. Do we really want to bother with the 200, 300 or 400 who might be ill and the 600 or 700 who might be unfit to practice for other reasons? There are 39,000 people in the society's register who we are completely unconcerned about. This is the society's view. There are maybe 500 to 1,000 people who we would rather not have on the register. The society's view is quite simply, it would rather get rid of that 1,000 people and be rid of them.
Gosh, that sounds harsh. Okay.
It is harsh, and it's what we're against. And it's not what I'm against just in your case. I'm against it in the case that came before the committees on the 1st of September, the case of Mr. Kamal, which is in the journal, that came before the committees on the 12th of October, the case of Mr. Feidelman that came before the committees on the 6th of November, the case of Mr. Rafferty that came before the committees on the 13th of November, and the case of Mr. Wongley that came before the committee on the 18th, and Mr. Tvillers on the 19th. In every single one of those cases that I'm dealing with, it is perfectly obvious that the view being taken by the society is it would simply want to be rid of all of those people. That is the way the society behaves. It, as far as it's concerned, can well do without 500 people on the register. Just get rid of them. And that is the attitude we are fighting. Now let me just have a look under consideration by the Health Committee. Let me just see what we can ask the Society to do tomorrow and how we might do that. Just bear with me.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the power. It's Article 51, so I'm just going to have to read out aloud in a second. Right. Once the committee has determined a person's fitness to practice is impaired, which is what they have done at this stage, it may give a direction that the person concerned should be suspended for such period not exceeding 12 months. Give a direction that the person registration on conditional rights. So they've suspended you under Article 51(3)(c). Let me just check at a review what they can then do at the review. Just bear with me. If the health... Right, hang on. Let's go back to there, right. Where the Health Committee is given direction following a review, following a review, it may. The suspension be extended for a further period not exceeding 12 months. A person concerned with suspension indefinitely. Now, if the suspension has already been enforced throughout the period, now it's not been enforced for 2 years because it was an interim order, so your suspension's only been enforced for 1 year. So, right, let me try to explain the difference between an indefinite suspension and a fixed period suspension. An indefinite suspension is far better from your point of view because an indefinite suspension can be reversed at any time. So if you're suspended indefinitely, there's no duration. It could only be for a day, it could be for the rest of your life. And at any time in the indefinite period, we can go back to the committee and ask for a review and have the suspension reversed. If it's a definite period suspension, then there can be a review in that period, and an order can be made as to what will happen at the end of the review, but they can't change the period of suspension. Now, let me give you exactly an example of how this happened before. Back in July 2007, I had a person who suffered from a serious mental illness, and he agreed that he suffered from that mental illness at that time, and the committee suspended him with his agreement for 12 months. 6 months later, we found out that he was being poisoned by a substance which was making him mentally ill. And a report was obtained from both the Society's doctor and his own doctor confirming that in fact he was not mentally ill, he had simply been poisoned by a substance. We went back to the committee in the March, which was within the 12-month period, and everybody was agreed that his suspension should end. The Society was in agreement, I was in agreement, even the chairman of the committee, and the committee was in agreement that his suspension should be effectively ended in March 2008. However, the legal advisor then intervened and said, "Gentlemen, I am sorry, this is a 12-month suspension. If you read the rules, it cannot be terminated." And the committee had to make an order that immediately his suspension came to an end on the 2nd of July 2008, it would not be reimposed and he would be free to practice. But the effect of that suspension being imposed for a year, the previous August, was that at the moment there is no power to change that. And that's going to be altered in April, and this is why I'm coming to that. In the rules that are coming in April, that's going to change. It's going to change to where it can be reviewed and revoked, either if it's indefinite or definite. But the problem at the moment is, if you're suspended for 12 months, it can't be changed, even if everybody, including the Society, wants to change it. The 12 months has to run. Now, there are a number of things that we could do here. Certainly the letter will be sent to the Society. My view on this one is, my view continues to be that there is little point in us trying to do anything tomorrow. The reason I say that is because Whitland will be able to successfully argue that any documents submitted at this stage, 24 hours before the hearing, cannot be taken into consideration in terms of evidence, and I have to agree with him on that. That is too late. But we could ask for the document to be taken into consideration as an indication of what you're planning to do, because Dr. Brownell says that she's going to report by the 15th of December 2009. So my view on this one is that the best thing to do would be to simply write to the committee and ask the committee to make an order for a review within 6 months and a suspension for no more than 6 months, and put that forward to the committee in writing.
Okay.
Now, the advantage of that would be, generally speaking, if nobody attends and some evidence is put forward of an intention to submit material, the committee is likely to give effect to that, no matter what Mr. Whitlam says. My view is if we turn up, it will be worse, because they will then be able to say, well, you've had a whole 12 months, you have turned up, nothing has happened. My view would be that we conserve your monies for the hearing in March, because that's what I'm concerned to do, and we don't waste what would effectively be the cost of going tomorrow when we know there is little or nothing we're going to achieve. So my view in this case would be that we put forward written representations, which I would need your signature on, but which I could get before today, to the committee in writing, asking them to suspend you for a further 6 months and order a review within that time, because it will take that amount of time to get to a review. If Dr. Brownell reports by the 15th of December, as I'm sure she will, you will want to look at that report and consider it with me. Once that report's been amended to put anything right that you want putting right, it'll be Christmas, because it'll take a week or so to get, I mean, if it's the 15th of December, and you and I have got to look at that report and decide what we're going to do, that's going to be about a week. So that'll take us to, say, the 22nd, 23rd of December. That's Christmas time. So nothing's going to happen then until the 6th of January, because the society closes down for 2 weeks. At the beginning of January, the society will want to send that report to its own expert, for its expert to read that report. You and I will then have to make a decision as to whether we're going to provide any other information which that expert requires before it goes back to review. And if we're going to provide that information, that expert will have to consider that information and send it back to the society, and their expert is not likely to report back with his view of Dr. Brownell's report before the middle of February. In practice, it will take at least another 2 months to then get it actually put into the list for a review, which would take us till about the middle of April. Now, we're in November. December, January, February, March, April is 5 months. So I think the practicalities of this are that if we were to ask for a review at 6 months and a further suspension for 6 months, I think we would be very likely to get it. Whereas if we ask for 3 or 4 months, I think that is less likely. So what I'm seeking your permission to do is to ask for a 6-month suspension, bearing in mind the practical realities that even if we got a 2-month suspension, it will take us far longer than that to actually get a case together for you and to get a further review organised. Are you in agreement with my advice?
I'm listening to you, Mr. Edwards, and I'm trying to understand everything you're saying. My question would be, if, let's say, I agreed, what are my prospects? I mean, does that mean I stand a better chance, or does it mean they just get another 6 months? And I'm in the same position.
6 months is what we're agreeing to. 6 months is what we're agreeing to. Because what I'm saying, before you can go back onto the practicing register, there has to be a full hearing of your case with medical evidence. That can't happen tomorrow, because as you know, we still don't have the medical evidence. You understand that?
Can it not be provisional? Can it not be provisional for tomorrow? I mean, an indication, like you said, an indication of what the story is so far, so they can see where it's, well, they can see where it's heading in a professional sense.
They can see where it's heading, but they will. The point that I'm making is they're not going to make any decision on the basis of they can see where it's heading, except to decide that it isn't going to take another 12 months to get there. That's precisely what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is this, that we can't hold a full hearing tomorrow because we don't have a medical report from Dr. Brownell to put forward. That has been the situation since the 13th or the 16th of November. So we can't argue a case tomorrow, first of all because we're out of time for providing the information. Secondly, we still don't have the information. The information has not yet come from Dr. Brownell. So there can be no reinstatement to the practicing register tomorrow under any circumstances. The question we have to address is how do we move that forward? My view is that we should put the letter of Dr. Brownell forward as evidence of the fact that within another month there will be evidence to support a case by you that you are fit to practice. That will then have to be considered by the society's own expert. Even if you don't go and see that person, the society will certainly send the report of Dr. Brownell to them, and they will ask that person an opinion. Can't stop them doing that, because the society will say, we're not doctors, we don't understand this report. So the society will have to send the report to their expert. It's bound to take another 4 to 6 weeks for their expert to prepare a report based on Dr. Brownell's report, even if that person doesn't see you because you don't want to see them. So we're not going to be in a position to go back for a review before March. That's the practical realities of time. The time taken for Dr. Brownell to produce her final report in December, and the society's then over to do nothing over Christmas because they won't. From the 6th of January until about the middle of February is going to be the time for the society's expert to consider your report and express a view on it. And then we've got to get it listed for a hearing. And practicalities of listing are that we would have to have it listed 2 months later. You wouldn't get a committee together beforehand. So my view is that a 6-month suspension would do no harm, because realistically we're not going to get a review in much less the sheer practicalities of getting the evidence together. So my view is that we should write to the committee direct, simply saying that evidence is coming from Dr. Brownell, putting forward the letter that we've received today, not as evidence as your health, because it's too late for it to be considered as evidence as to your health, but evidence as to the fact that you will be producing evidence as to your health within the next month, and therefore that you should be suspended for a further period of either 4 months, but certainly no more than 6 months, with a further full review to be ordered within that time.
Okay, I still need to think about it. I mean, you're saying 6 months is not going to harm me. 2 years have harmed me, and I think 6 months isn't going to help me. I thought the 3 or 4 months I could just about handle that. Another 3 or 4 months, knowing that something was happening, and I had somebody speaking on my behalf, and I had a doctor who'd seen me a couple of times, and things were kind of adding up. But just another 6 months, that's just going to... Then they're going to ask for another 6 months. And it just will carry on.
They won't be able to ask for another 6 months if we've produced a report. The problem that we have is we have been unable to proceed at this hearing tomorrow because we don't have any evidence. The evidence that since the 9th of September that I've been saying I needed to obtain from Dr. Brownell to put forward, we still do not have. If we get the evidence from Dr. Brownell in December, the practical realities of that, then it is going to take another 8 weeks before the society is in a position to file a case, either supporting or opposing that evidence. So that will take us 3 months, but then there has to be a hearing. What I'm trying to explain to you is one of the things the committee is going to consider is the practical realities of having a hearing. I know from the hundreds of cases that I've done that when one goes in front of a committee and says, can we have a review in 4 months? One of the things that immediately the committee chairman says is, well, do we have the listing secretary here? How practical is that, Mr. Edwards? Do we have a committee available? Are we going to be able to hold a review? Because you see, the difficulty that arises, if the committee says, we're going to spend, let's assume the committee says, right, we will suspend until the 24th of March, December, January, February, March, 4 months. What happens if you can't hold a full review before the 24th of March? Because there isn't any committee or time available, or the evidence hasn't been fully considered. Then what then has to happen is there has to be another interim review lasting possibly 2 hours, at which a further suspension would probably be ordered for another 4 months, making 8 months.
Exactly, that's what they're doing. It's better.
I beg your pardon?
How can that be better?
No, that isn't better. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's not better. So what we would be better doing is we would be better trying to get a review at a point in time when it is likely to be able to happen. My view is if we go for a 6-month period, we're likely to get that as against the society's request for 12 months. But if we go for a 4-month period, the chairman, I think, will think that it is too short a period of time in which to be able to get a committee together and get the evidence. Chairman will therefore not agree with us. The risk is the chairman may go for a further 12-month review. So this is my real concern, that if we ask for a period of time which is too short because we can't get any agreement from the society, then we may end up having imposed on us a period of time which is too long. And even if we then go to a review in April, if you're suspended for 12 months, even if the review says, fine, you can now practice, you won't be able to go back onto the register until the end of that 12-month period, as happened to the person previously.
Unless in April that changes. In 2010.
Yes, it may well change in April. It may well change, but I mean, if it changes, so much the better. But we don't want to agree to a 12-month suspension period continuing. My suggestion is that we should agree to a 6-month suspension period continuing, because that is a realistic period. It is also the period within which, if there is an indefinite suspension, the committee has to order a review. So we're very likely to succeed on 6 months. We are unlikely to succeed without the Society's agreement on 4 months. What I'm saying to you is we would be better going for 6 months and probably getting it than going for 4 months and not getting it and being ordered to accept 12.
So you're saying 6 months, it will be over after 6 months, if I agree to 6 months? Will they find another reason?
If we suggest to the committee an unreasonable period of time to get this reviewed, the committee will say, it's too short, make it another year. The Society is going to go there tomorrow and it's going to say, Miss Hashmi's had a year, nothing's happened. Why on earth should we agree to anything less than a year? If we're putting forward evidence from Dr. Brownell that something is going to happen, I think the committee will go for 6 months. Well, I don't think they'll go for 12 months. I'm using my experience at previous health committees. We had a case like this, exactly like this, last November. Precisely the same situation. And the registrant had been suspended in the same way that you had. The registrant did not want to attend the Society's doctor, but the registrant did finally agree, just before the hearing, to attend the Society's doctor. We wrote to the chairman, without attending, setting out that the registrant was going to attend, and that would happen within a month or two. The chairman said, that's fine, but we've already waited a year, so we're not going to wait only 4 months. We're going to allow a further 6 months to get the evidence, because that is a reasonable period of time, and then we won't be wasting our time coming back. And they ordered 6 months. The Society had asked for 12 months, and they lost. Now, we've had 2 other cases like that, where in every case, when we've asked for 6 months, the committee has been prepared to order the 6 months, a year being considered too long. My view on this is if we ask for 4 months, we won't get it, and the risk is the committee might then give the Society what it wants, 6 months. It's entirely up to you. I can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you what I believe would be best. I think we should ask for 4 and say that if the committee is against us, then a very maximum of 6.
Mr. Edwards, it seems like they're being quite callous and they're admitting to it, and then they're going to feel empowered. I mean, they don't seem to have much of a conscience, and if we like say to
They
them,
don't have conscience whatsoever, but I'm making clear we are dealing tomorrow with the committee, not with the Pharmaceutical Society. The
Right.
Royal Pharmaceutical Society is what I call, it's like the Crown Prosecution Service. If you turn this into a criminal case, then I'm the defence, you're the accused, and the RPSGB is the CPS. Tomorrow, we're going in front of the judge and jury, if you follow me. So the committee is not necessarily going to follow anything that the Society is asking for. It would be very likely to follow an agreement. If both me and the Society were agreed, as we were until this morning, on a period of 4 months, then undoubtedly the committee would be inclined to follow that. Because generally speaking, where both sides are in agreement, the committee will follow it in just the same way as if you go to court and both the defence and the prosecution are agreed that there's no charge, then it's dropped, because if both sides agree, then there's little for the committee to decide. But in this case, the Society have double-crossed us, and what I'm suggesting to you is that we should make representations for a 4-month suspension, and if they're against us, 6 months, but certainly no more than 6 months. And that we should put Dr. Brownell's report, or interim report, forward in support of those representations. May I know what you have to say about that?
well, it's obviously a lot to take in, and I'm still quite apprehensive because I do agree and I do cooperate, and then things still carry on. I mean, it's gone from November the 24th to possibly February and then maybe March as well. And now he's crept over to June.
I've got to stop you there. I'm sorry. It's not. You said you cooperated, but I did tell you in September that we needed this report from Dr. Brownell well in advance of the November hearing. We've not got it. So
you could have said,
have it.
Mr. Edwards, you could have said, look, this lady has actually been to a consultant psychiatrist in January and March, and she's got a favourable report, but she hasn't run to the society and begged to be put back on the register. So I feel like...
What you don't understand is this is a review that you've known about for a year, and you know, the society's going to be saying you didn't even contact me until September.
But I didn't know about you.
Let me put it another way. Let me put the question another way. What do you want me to do tomorrow?
Okay, tomorrow, when is your appointment with Mr. Wickland? Is it 9 o'clock?
I don't have any appointments at the moment, and that's the question I'm asking you. What do you want me to do tomorrow? Do you want me to write to the society telling them that we believe that they should review this case in 4 months or 6 months? Do you want me to go to the society to argue a case for you, which is obviously going to use up fees that would otherwise go towards the March or April hearing? What do you want me to do?
I think it would be nice if we stuck to February and March and sort of push for it. We have an indication that we have reason to be reasonably confident.
Right, now do you want me to put that to them in writing and save you the cost of tomorrow being thrown away, or do you want me to actually turn up and argue the case for the whole day?
Well, you can't go tomorrow for the whole day. It's just a half-an-hour conversation between you and Mr. Wickland over the phone.
That's the whole point. It isn't a half-an-hour conversation. The case is presently listed for a whole day. Mr. Wickland has gone back on his agreement to withdraw the case from a hearing tomorrow. So there is a hearing tomorrow at which I can either make written representations as to why that hearing should be postponed and suspension for another 4 months with a full review in 4 months' time, or if they're against the 6 months' time, or I can turn up at that hearing and I can argue the case for you. It's entirely up to you. My view is you would be wasting your money sending me tomorrow for the simple reason that no substantive progress can be made in that we do not have a case to present as to your health. So there is no progress going to be made. The only thing the committee is going to decide tomorrow is the timing of the next review and the length of your continued suspension. So the real first question that you've got to answer very quickly, because I will need to go if I'm going to go, is do you want me to turn up and argue the point for the day tomorrow and see what result we get at the end of the day, and that will cost you effectively what tomorrow you've already paid, or do you want me to put representations in writing that the matter should be reviewed because there is medical evidence coming which will be available within the next month or so, and that you should be further suspended for a further 4 months if they're against the 6 months but no more than that, and a further review ordered within that period. I have to know whether you want me to go or whether you want me to write. Once we've decided whether I'm going or writing, and I don't think there's any point in going, but I will go if necessary, then the second thing I have to decide very quickly is what I'm going to write. Or say, whichever.
All right, I thought it made sense if you do not attend tomorrow and I do not attend tomorrow, then the whole thing should be postponed, as we understood early on from Mr. Wickland, for a full hearing in February or March. So nothing should take place tomorrow other than you and him touch base and exchange pertinent information, and then the whole full hearing takes place in spring.
Well, let me explain. That's not going to happen. There is going to be a hearing tomorrow. You can't prevent there being a hearing. If Mr. Wickland won't agree to there not being a hearing, which he now won't, there will be a hearing. The only thing that can be decided at that hearing is when is going to be the next review. That's the only thing that can be decided because there's no other information. So the first question is, do you want me to go along and argue when there should be another review? And I think that is a complete waste of money, and it's likely to result in a longer period of suspension, because they will say you've had time to organise your representative, therefore you've had time to organise your evidence. In my opinion, it would be better if we were to write to the committee saying that you're presently organising your evidence, that we have understood that the society would be agreeable to a short further period of suspension, and asking for that suspension only to be for 4 months, but if the committee will not do that, then a maximum of 6 months. And pointing out that 6 months is the normal review period in most health cases, and saying therefore that we believe that no suspension should go on longer than 6 months, and a review in no more than 6 months.
Okay, well, if you put something in writing, will they slap our wrists for not coming? I mean, they might use that against us, the fact that we didn't come.
Well, you see, it's purely a question of the time of the next review. There's no guaranteed outcome to any of this. There's simply no guaranteed outcome. That's the point that I make. There's no way of guaranteeing what the outcome is going to be. So one other possibility would be to turn up and argue the point, but at the end of the day, we could end up, wasting the whole day for the want of what may be an hour and a half. That's what I'm getting at. My view is, if you're wanting to save your money,
yes, I
you
have
probably
to.
need to save your money.
Yes.
We should put something forward in writing. They are, even if they suspend for a further 12 months, as I've said, matters are going to change in April under the new regulations, and it may well be that by April that suspension could be undone. The most important thing we need to do is to get an order for a further review. Now that they will have to make. The question simply is, are we going or are we doing it in writing? In my view, at this stage, it would be better to do it in writing.
Well, obviously, I mean, if you go and represent me tomorrow, will you be requesting more payment for the full hearing in next year?
Well, obviously, yes, because it will be a whole day down the drain, and this is why I'm suggesting to you that it may well be much better to save those monies for March, because I do not think that I am going to actually achieve anything better by going tomorrow than we can achieve in writing. And in fact, we may well be able to achieve more by writing than we can by going. Because when somebody doesn't attend, they're normally more anxious to have an earlier review that will be attended than they are if somebody attends. That's exactly why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. The last two cases like this, we have deliberately not gone, and I've been instructed to write requesting a further review in 6 months, and we've obtained those. In the one case that we did attend, they ordered a further 12 months, and that's what I'm coming to. When they've not got the benefit of being able to hear from anybody, they are more inclined to order an earlier review earlier on, and that is why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. I'm also suggesting it because I don't want to waste your money, which in my opinion is not going to be put to any good effect by my attending tomorrow. But I've got to make a decision within the next hour as to what I'm doing, because if I'm going to go, I have to get on my way.
Okay, Mr. Edwards, if you can put something in writing and explain to them, as long as it doesn't backfire on us, that's the important thing.
Well, we've no idea. We've no idea what is going to happen. That's the point that I'm coming to. There is simply no idea what is going to happen.